ProtoSpace is one of the first Fab Labs in the Netherlands. I think it's there was the very first Fab Lab was during an exhibition in the Post-CS building in Amsterdam, and this was actually the real more kind of real Fab Lab in the sense of the Netherlands, together with Waag Amsterdam, and The Hague was also sort of starting up. So it's around the same time. It's difficult to say who's the first, and I don't think it matters as well. But it was 2008. Yeah, I didn't make the business plan, but the second day I was here, then all the machines came in, and yeah, this was an empty space. So we had to organize all the desks, where the machines are, how the machines work. Nobody ever heard of laser cutting and 3D printing at that time, so it's pioneering and yeah, interesting times. I think because we were maybe the first or very early in Utrecht area to do this, that really made a sort of example of other places. But it's not only Utrecht region. I think it's also ProtoSpace as an example of how can a Fab Lab run as well for worldwide things, like a sustainable lab. And yeah, we actually set in the Fab Lab community the discussion of what is a Fab Lab. And that's also why we called ProtoSpace, because the discussion back then was, if you're not open 7 days a week for free, then officially you're not a Fab Lab. Yes. And you cannot make a business model out of that. You know, you have to, if you want to start up something in the Netherlands, you have to say, okay, you spend this and what's your income? So you have to do some other activities to do that. And that's why we in the beginning started, okay, we're ProtoSpace, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, then we have the Open Lab, then we are the Fab Lab. And actually that discussion is still ongoing. It's a good discussion. And but I think we found a nice balance in the Open Lab days. And the other activities which belong to ProtoSpace as a Fab Lab thing.
But also the Fab Charter had a little change in this sense.
Yeah.
From
yeah, but that's good that things change. Also the difference is that 2008 the 3D printer was not in the Fab Lab program as well. From the beginning we said, okay, we want the 3D print because that will be big. And so we, with the default Fab Lab machines, we also ordered the Z-Corp, it's a full color 3D printer. And actually the first year when we started, we did also a masterclass with build your own 3D printer. And that ended up in the company Ultimakers. Yeah, nice example. I'm pretty proud of it that we can say the Ultimaker was born here. It's a good success, and the first 5 years we also had the European subsidies. And one of the goals is how many employees, FTE, can you offer, you know, because you get money from the government, so you have to give something back. And it's really comfortable that something as Ultimaker came up, because with that company we already went 3 times over the target of what it is, and that's only just one spin-off of ProtoSpace. Yeah, so but that's also an example that these kind of spaces really work. You know, it's not just for fun things. It's really to help innovation and to help and make benefits of for the community. It's like a different way of approaching things, but I think everything which is going to be digital is very difficult to protect in the normal way. You have to think of other business models. And one of the models could be like open source or Creative Commons, but you have to make another business model. And the same is for design. It's not only open innovation or open electronics, it's for design as well. If I design a chair and I have a digital file and I transport the file over the world, the file is copied like within a second. So I cannot say you're not allowed to copy, it's impossible. So you have to think of other ways how to make the business. And I'm a product designer as a background, so maybe I don't know what the real business model is yet, but the current business model doesn't work. That's what I know for sure. So you have to find out what it does. And for software, it took more than 20 years to prove that open source software can make money and it's a sustainable business model. But if you now look at MySQL or PHP or a lot of other things, there's a lot of money going around with open source or free software. And yeah, I think as product design you have to learn from that. As you look at Ultimaker, it really helps them to develop their product like many times faster than a traditional company. In the beginning, Ultimaker maybe consists out of 5 or 6 people, and they sold maybe 3,000 machines. So in theory, their research and development department was like 3,000 people. Normally, R&D is 5 to 10%. So if you're a big company and you have like 2,000 employees, you have maybe 20 people of R&D. And now you're with 6 people and you have like 3,000 people of employees. Now they're with 100 people and they have maybe 30 or 40,000 machines sold. So they have potentially an R&D department of 40,000 people. And of course, they're not all active and they're not all brilliant. But let's say 0.5% or 0.1% is active. Then you still have like, no, like 30 to 300 people like working for free on research and development. And it's a completely different business approach. We had our 5th year anniversary. Yeah. So we organized a whole event with a lot of demos, expositions, and it was like a whole day with a lot of people, a lot of lectures, and also, yeah, we thought, okay, maybe we will do some sort of world record of 3D printing, because we have a lot of people with 3D printers, and we have like these Ulti evenings that's like now it's organized by the community of Ultimaker, and then people brought their own 3D printer and start sharing their knowledge, and not online, also offline.
Yeah, physically.
Yeah, because physically, and if you do it physically, it's also easier to do it. So I got in contact with Grounded, and I also saw this robot arm. And then I thought, okay, maybe it would be nice if you can print like this robot in one day. And also explains it's not prototyping, you can really do production if you scale it up. And 65 machines sounds like a lot, but it's an investment of maybe 80,000 euros. Compared to a factory, it's like an investment of nothing. I don't know if you can say the sustainability in a percentage, but the business plan was written for the first 5 years with this European Union funding. Mm-hmm. And in the business plan was that, okay, in the beginning we need more funds because nobody knows about what it is, so you have to, yeah, explain more, and it costs more money, till like a 90% coverage of all the costs we make. Mm-hmm. And if you look at ProtoSpace, we do like several things. We organize workshops, the master classes, of course. Mm-hmm. We do also education. So we made school lessons for elementary schools for kids between 10 and 14 or 10 and 12. And they do history research and innovation research. And in one morning they all visit the lab, and all the 20 to 30 children create something on the laser cutter and on the 3D printer and on the final cutter. So they use all the machines in blocks of 20 minutes, and then they swap, so they use the whole lab. And so that's a really nice program. And then we have we are in an international research project to do bioprinting, print cartilage. We do business events. That's like also team building or communicating better, and it's you can build a 3D printer one day or a robot battle. You can rent the machines, and of course we have the open lab thing. Yeah, and the open lab, I always say it's not free. You don't pay in euros, but you have to pay with your knowledge.
Okay.
No, so actually it's not free, but especially the educational things and the open lab things, they cost money. So you have to find the funds for that, and that can be or by a local government, or you can get the money by the other activities you provide. And if it's 50%, I don't know, but at the moment we don't get the like a basic funding for every year from the government. And I prefer to do like projects, like for the school thing, that we ask for a certain budget for this school thing, so that it's not like holding up your hands and asking for money and then okay, thank you, bye. No, it's always in exchange for some sort of project funding. We have a sort of check in, check out. That's also one of the agenda things on every year Fab conference, how to do the documentation better, because it's really difficult to document and to keep track of that. And also compared to open source software, to make Git user-friendly, it's only maybe the past few years, and that took more than 20 years to make it user-friendly to do the documentation and sharing. I think in product design and physical things it's even more difficult, because not everything you type is digital yet. It's the drawing, but with the drawing it's not ready yet. You also need some more instructions, and that's difficult to document. But we have here in the beginning we had the Fab Flash introduced it, and it was the camera with an SD card. So 2009 already, or 2008. If you take a picture, it went directly to flickr.com. So that was the first step of documenting. The Fab Flash is number one. Number two is the Fab Moment. It's like a picture with a description and settings. And the whole idea was that you can upgrade your Fab Moment to maybe a Fab tutorial or a Fab sheet or maybe a workshop or a masterclass, you know, so you have all these different levels. But it's still difficult, and it's a really nice ongoing discussion of how to document things and what is the best way and how can you convince the people to document it. And because you made it yourself, and it's really nice if you make notes for yourself, why don't you make them public? Then everybody see the notes, then everybody see what fails. You can read it back yourself, and maybe somebody else also has is useful for their project. I said before, right, to protect it is really difficult. And even if you protect it with a patent or something, the copy is on the market the next day as well. Something I mention a lot is that if you share, it doesn't mean that you don't own it anymore.